Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar today. Our webinar will be hosted by Marie-Ève Chartrand, who is the Director of Customer Success. Her role here at Toon Boom is quite an important one. She's responsible for all our customer success, basically, and your success. She's invested in all of our animators and their work. So she's really our primary person when it comes to deciding and figuring out how to make our clients happy, how to make our artists and animators happy. And we're always here for feedback. So this webinar basically is going to take you through what Toon Boom Studio had to offer and what Harmony Essentials does offer you, and how quickly and easily you can make the transition. And the last 15 minutes can be reserved for any questions you have and any follow-up you'd like to have with us. And my name, if you have any questions for me, is Desi, and I am the Manager of Marketing and Communications here at Toon Boom. So Marie-Ève, floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Well, welcome everybody to this webinar. Obviously, moving from Toon Boom Studio to Harmony Essential is a big topic right now as we're doing this transition into the Harmony world. So what I'm going to talk about today is we're going to talk a bit about what Harmony is. A lot of you are probably familiar already with it, but we're still going to touch some basics on it. Then I'm going to give you some tips on how to adapt Harmony to behave a little bit more like your Toon Boom Studio version, because there are some differences that you can adapt so that you feel a bit more comfortable. Then I'll show you where you can find some resources to learn Harmony, and also find information on how to do this transition. Then the next topic I'll cover is all the feature equivalents that you will find between Studio and Harmony that are either different or have a different name, so that you know where to find the features that you were used to use. And then after that, I'll mention the few features that are in Studio that at this moment are not available in Harmony, but stay posted because we always develop new features in Harmony. Then after that, I'll finish with the features that are in Harmony but are not in Studio that will be actually an addition for you when moving to Harmony. So there will be a detailed recap that will be sent to you after the webinar I'll show you this recap. It's the Migrating from Toon Boom Studio to Harmony document, which covers every topic that I'm discussing, but in further detail with some links online to specific topics for you to learn how to do this transition. So Harmony. First of all, Harmony, it offers professional drawing tools and compositing tools, as well as a lot of animation tools, but in a friendly environment. So the first one that we have at the introductory level is Harmony Essential, which is the one that we recommend Toon Boom Studio users to move to when they do the transition. Obviously, there's also additional editions that are more advanced. For example, Harmony Advanced contains more features for doing advanced paperless animation. And then if you go to Harmony Premium, then you have all the features to be able to do full-on extreme cutout animation, as well as advanced paperless animation. So they all build one on top of each other. So you can start with Harmony Essential, and then if you want later on, you could upgrade to Harmony Advanced or Harmony Premium once you're more comfortable with the Harmony technology. So for example, if I get out of this presentation, let me bring up Harmony Essential. Just a second, it's been minimized over here. So with Harmony Essential, you have here all the beautiful scenes and features that you can do. So for example, here you can do very nice animations in Harmony Essential, which contains a lot of the views that you're familiar with from Toon Boom Studio. For example, you have your camera view, your drawing view, your properties view, your library, top and side view, color view, and the timeline view. So a lot of the features that you know from Studio are already available here. Then if you want to push a little bit further, like I was saying, you also have Harmony Advanced, that is for paperless animation, and you can also do basic cutout like in Harmony Essential. And then you can see also have the exposure sheet available here. Then if I bring up Premium, which has a bit more features such as the node view, you also have the ability to do extreme cutout, where you can use one set of drawing on a cutout puppet and then do a 360 animation, for example, on a character. That's in the more advanced topics. But right now, what I'm going to do is mainly introduce you to Harmony Essential and then show you some of these tips that I was talking about. So then if I go back to my presentation, let's bring it back here. So there's a few tips. The first one is keyboard shortcuts. Toon Boom Studio and Harmony have two different set of shortcuts. And so when you start playing around and you've been used to work with studios for many years, you can get confused. But the nice thing about Harmony is it allows you to choose a series of shortcut flavors. So the first one, you could use the Harmony shortcuts. Then you can also, if you are from a Flash background, you could use the Adobe shortcut set, or, which is our point of interest here, the Toon Boom Studio shortcuts. So whenever it's possible, Harmony will use the Toon Boom Studio shortcuts that you were used to use. So I will show you how to do that in the software in a couple seconds. So the other one is when you export animation. When you do that from in Harmony, then you'll be maybe surprised that you'll have a black background instead of a white background. So by default, Harmony exports with an alpha channel that is on a black background. So when you have a black outline animation, you won't see it. So I'll show you how you can easily add a color card. It takes 2 seconds, and then you'll have a background of the color of your choice to export your animation and see what you're doing. The other one is, as you saw, Harmony has a black interface, as Toon Boom Studio has a light gray interface. So if you are used to have this light interface, so to feel a bit more comfortable, there's a preference for you to change the UI color, as well as a preference to be able to change the color of many items in the interface, such as the color of the camera view. So for example, in Harmony, you have a dark gray background, but if you're used to have a white background, you can also change that. And then I'll show you one of the thing also is that Toon Boom Studio file format is different from Harmony, but through exporting your artwork from Toon Boom Studio in a SWF file, you will be able to import that in Harmony, and it will be able to reuse all the vector artwork that you've done. There might be some keyframe or layer ordering or a couple things like camera motion that might be lost, but most of it will be carried over. So it's a very good way to reuse some of the artwork that you created in Harmony and bring it over, in Studio, and bring it over to Harmony. And then finally, one of the things that is fairly different, but actually quite convenient in Harmony, is the tool properties view, which combines the text view, combines the text view, the pen view, and a few different things like that, and also a lot of options that are available in the menu items. So let me show you all these different tips directly in Harmony. And then here, so I'll bring back up my, I'm already here, Harmony Essential. So the first one we talked about were the keyboard shortcuts. So in your preferences, it's really easy. It's actually right here in the first tab. You'll find you have Harmony, Adobe Flash, and Toon Boom Studio. And as soon as you switch it, there you go. You are already using the Studio keyboard shortcut. Therefore, if I press 1 or all of these different shortcuts, I will be able to select the tools the way I was used to in Toon Boom Studio. And the main one, I think, that would be a difference for you is zooming in and zooming out, which is the Z and the X. And then in Harmony, it's 1 and 2. And if ever you feel like you want to try the keyboard shortcuts for Harmony, then you can always go back and change it. It's at any time that you can change that. So I could put it back to Harmony like this, and then use the 1 and 2 to zoom in and zoom out. The second one that we talked about was exporting on a white background. So let me create a new scene here. So you see, it's fairly similar when you try to create new scenes. You have a lot of very similar settings, but you might find actually sometimes that you have more control and more options when either creating new tools or adjusting parameters. So I will create, for example, here a test scene. And no, I don't need to save this one. So if I go ahead and let's say I'll draw a wonderful little heart. If I try to export this, let me show you here in the render mode. What you'll get when you export is a black background like this. Like I was saying, only the black line is opaque. The rest is transparency, and Harmony pre-multiplies with black. So really simply, in my timeline view, I can go ahead and add what we call a color card, which is by its name a color card. And wherever you place it in your timeline, it will simply always appear behind everything, right? By default, it's far in the background, so wherever I put it in the timeline doesn't matter. So now you can see I have a white background. And then if I want to, I can always change its color. So if I want, instead of a white background, I want a blue background, then I can go ahead, or green, or whichever color, then I can change that, and now my scene has a green background for the entire duration. So it's really simple to fix this difference. So it's just good to remember, because when you come from Toon Boom Studio, it's something that you might not realize right off the bat. Then the other one I was talking about is interface color. So if I go back to my preferences, you'll find a lot of preferences that you can use to adjust the behavior of Harmony, to feel a bit more comfortable with it, to adjust to your workflow. So if I go to my General tab, there's a few, here in my Camera tab, I have this option for changing the background color. So instead of a gray, I could go to white, or maybe not straight white, just a little less. There I can go to white, and if I press OK, you can see it changes that background as well. So again, it feels a bit more at home, like you would feel with Toon Boom Studio. Then if I go back to my preferences, you also have the option of using the dark style sheet. That one is under the General tab, and if you want to change the camera background, it's under the Camera tab here. So here, this one will requires a relaunch, so I won't do that right now. But if you uncheck this and then you relaunch Essential, you'll have the light color background. And then that's as simple as that. Then the other one I was talking about is when you are in Toon Boom Studio and you would like to import some of your projects that you have here into Harmony, then what you can do, so for example, here I have a cute little animation. I don't know if the playback will go well, but so I have this little character, rubber hose style, that I would like to bring into Harmony and continue working on it. So you can see in my timeline, I have a few layers here with some animation on it. I have some keyframes and a few elements like this. So what I can do is I simply have to export my animation to a Flash movie or SWF movie. And then once I export it, oh yeah, I won't overwrite. I already have one ready for us. But so once I export this, and let me show it to you on my desktop. So I have my little Flash movie here. Then I can take this and bring it to Harmony. Now, I'll go back to my Essential. Here we go. So I'm getting rid of this. In my library, I will be able to import vector elements. So if I have Illustrator files or SWF files or PDF files, I need to bring them through my library. So therefore, if you go in your menu and you go File, Import, and then you see that somehow SWF, Illustrator files, and all that is grayed out, it's not because it's not supported in Essential. It's because you need to unlock the library first. For security reasons, so that you don't delete templates by mistake from your library, you have to get the rights to modify this. So if I go in my Essential library here, right-click, I can do right to modify. So now you can see the lock icon goes away. Now if you go back to the File menu, you'll see that now if I do import, this option is now available. It's available from here, and it's also available from here. So I can go ahead and do import files. And then from here, you can browse for any files that you want. Therefore, I have my TBS animation SWF that is here. I already had imported it here in my library, but so pretty much it just comes in. And so we'll just load the images. I can name it, and now it's in my library. So what I can do with this is then simply bring it in Harmony. Now it wants to reconstitute the color palette, which is absolutely fine. And you can see that, well, now I have an off-camera leg, which is fine, but you'll see that most layers, keyframes, and all that were respected. So it's not always 100% accurate. You have to be careful because some features in Studio and some features in Harmony are dealt with differently. But at least all my artwork is brought over in the animation. So there you go. You can see my animation is now in. You know, if I extend my scene a bit longer, you can see I have all my animation in here. So that's a very nice way to at least create some kind of a bridge between the two technology. And then the other one I was talking about was the tool properties view. So in Toon Boom Studio, you'll find that a lot of the options, so for example, if I bring back up Studio, you'll find a lot of the options for your elements, tools, arrange, or your flatten, break apart, auto close gap. So a lot of these options here are in the menus. So every time you have a tool, you kind of have to remember which option is compatible with which tool in the top menu. And therefore, the difference here in Harmony is that every time I select a tool, all the different options that are available, for example, here, if I select something, even more options become available. I can modify my selections after the fact, for example, here. But so all options, so if I scroll down, you'll see I have my draw behind option here, my auto flatten. So these are now all context sensitive based on my selection, which is really handy. So you don't necessarily have to go hunt everywhere in the top menu to find your options. So that should help you, that list of tips should help you get a bit more comfortable when moving to Harmony. And so let me bring this back up. Here. So another important tool for you when doing this migration is videos and documentation. So on the Toon Boom website, you will be able to find some templates, documentation, videos, and templates, and a bunch of other elements that will help you understand the Harmony features. So for example, in the resources section in the Toon Boom website for Essential, you'll find very, very important videos, such as the introduction to Harmony, the Harmony interface, basic character rigging, camera multiplane, and introduction to effects. There's more than these, but I would say those are some of the core videos that you should watch to get more familiar. And also, you always have all the detailed information at docs.toonboom.com. Therefore, I'll bring those pages up so that you can see what it is. So if you come to our Toon Boom website, you always have the resources tab here in the top menu, which is very handy and brings you to this page where you can find videos, storyboarding, for storyboarding as well, some tips and tricks articles, some YouTube videos, and then you also have the documentation, some white papers, and some templates. So obviously one of the most used ones is the video tutorial, and you can here filter by product, and you'll find the Harmony Essential one here contains a lot of videos that you can watch. Some of the videos will illustrate the differences between Essential, Advanced, and Premium, and so you'll be able to see the differences, and sometimes it'll tell you, oh, maybe if I need that feature for my production, maybe I'll need a different edition, and you could upgrade or cross-grade to that edition. So you have all these videos available here for you to watch, and they are made by people that are actually in the community. So those are created by animators who work in animation on a day-to-day life. So you get a very nice perspective from different experts in the industry. The other one is the documentation. The same way as you can find the studio documentation here, you can find the Harmony documentation. And you have the essential, advanced, and premium. So if you go in the essential documentation, you'll find a lot of different topics. One of the topics I would recommend when you start is to go into concept. And then in the concept, I like even more what I call the basic concepts. So you might be already familiar with some of them, like pegs and multi-planning, but some stuff like networking, which is in the node view, or understanding some of these the differences between bitmaps and vectors, stuff like that, it can be very handy to read those and understand what's going on in Harmony. So those are two very good places to find additional information. Now we're going to start talking about the feature equivalency between Harmony and Studio. So a few of them are similar, but have their slight differences that could make you feel either lost or unsure. But it's actually fairly simple. I like a lot of the scene planning features are simplified in Harmony. For example, so we're going to talk about some different tools. The drawing tools toolbar is fairly similar, so it's simply called the tools toolbar. The scene planning toolbar, you will find it mainly along the tools toolbar. So we have put together drawings and scene planning tools. And you had in Toon Boom Studio 2 select tools, one for scene planning and one for drawing tools. And sometimes it could also be confusing to have the 2 tools with the same name. So now there's a difference between, in Harmony. So one is the select tool, the other one is the transform tool. So there's a clearer distinction between the tools. And the other one that is a bit different is the scissor tool, because in Studio you have the cutter and scissor tool, but in Harmony you only have the cutter tool. So I will demonstrate those to you with Essential. So I'll go back to my Essential here. Okay, so with a new scene. So like I was saying, the tools toolbar contains both the drawing tool, so you have your brush, and the select tool. This is the only select tool. And under you'll find the cutter tool, which is a combination of the scissor and cutter from TBS. And you'll find here in that same toolbar the transform tool. And if ever you need more advanced tool, in Toon Boom Studio you have the rotate tool, the skew tool, and all that. You will find that in an additional toolbar called Advanced Animation. Those are tools that we use less frequently for day-to-day animation. It's more used for advanced compositing. So this is where you would bring that toolbar up. But by default, we don't display it to keep things simpler and have only the tools toolbar. So now let me show you a distinction between the scene planning select tool. In Toon Boom Studio, if you use the select tool to move something around, it would reposition it. But in Harmony, the transform tool does pretty much everything. So if I try to reposition it here at a different frame, you'll see that it creates a keyframe and creates an animation, which is the behavior that the transform tool in Studio has. But if I want to be able to reposition something, I don't have that select tool that I'm used to use in Studio. Well, the difference here is simply that I always use the transform tool, but I simply have to disable or enable the animate mode. So if it's disabled, then I can reposition my layer without having to create any animation here. But if I enable it, then when I move it, there, let's say I move this, then it creates my keyframe and it creates my animation. So that's the difference here that is very important to understand, is that transform tool with a combination of the animate mode enabled or disabled. And then after that, I was talking about the cutter tool. So the cutter tool has, because we have the tool properties view and it's so handy, I don't need to have two separated tools. So by default, I can use the cutter tool like this, like the scissor, and break it apart. But if I want to have the other behavior, which was a marquee selection, I simply have to change the mode directly in my tool properties view, and so I have one or the other. And I can always use the shortcut to toggle between the two. So this is where you have a combination. So there are some simplification in Harmony like that that will a bit simplify your life, which I appreciate that quite a bit. Then there's other features that are different. So here, if we talk about animation, you'll have, for example, the lip sync. Well, you also have lip sync in Harmony. It acts a little bit differently, but it's exactly the same result. So you'll feel very familiar. We also have access to bones. So in Toon Boom Studio, you have the bones. In Harmony, they're also there, and they're actually very nice to use. There are some simplifications compared to Toon Boom Studio as well, with the kinematic output node that allows advanced rigs. And so they're called deformation. You also have the motion tool, which I just illustrated with, it's a transform tool with the enabled animate mode. So again, there's a lot of combination of the scene planning tools from Studio. And then the animation properties that are now also found under scene settings, and you have a lot of possibilities and settings available in Harmony as well. So let me minimize this one. And so if I come back here, so we were talking about the lip sync. So I'll clear this thing out and I'll bring from my library, I have here some lip syncs. I have a nice scene created by a 2D lab in Brazil. And it's actually really, really cute. So we have this little character. Play that back. So obviously he's not talking at this point. But then if I bring in some sound, so now you can see I have my waveform, which I appreciate that I can also zoom on it and make it bigger for visibility here in the timeline. You'll see that the timeline has a lot of parameters that you can access directly from here without having to go to the properties view too. So if I go through the sound here, for assigning the lip sync, what I can do is I simply use the layer properties view. So when I select a layer, you can see that it's context sensitive and shows me all the parameters that are available for a layer. But if I select a sound layer, then this comes up, which is the sound mapping. So the first thing I have to do, and now you might not hear the sound through because I have headphones on, but so I can detect first of all my animation, and then if I press play, so you can see it does the same as Studio. It detects all the mouths, and then once I have this one, the detection done, I can go ahead and simply map it to my character, and I have to choose amongst the tons of layers that I have here, but I'll find my bokeh layer here. Oh, I chose the elastic. Sorry about that. I'll go get my bokeh layer. Oh, it's right there. Sorry. So now, same thing as Studio. You map your drawings to the different mouths here, and this is done. So once my map out is done, then I can play. So you can see it's really, really simple. So you select your sound layer, layer properties will do the rest for you. After the lip sync, we spoke of bones that are also a bit different. So I will clear whatever is in my scene here and bring from my library So I have a nice little animation that is also created by 2D Labs. So we have a cute pink giraffe. I'll go back to the beginning of my scene. So you can see I have a nice animation going on here. And what I can do on this character is go ahead and add deformation. And simply I use the rigging tool, and I can go ahead and let me show you at the same time. In the tool properties view, you have a few options as well that you can modify. But you can see it's like one tool, a few options, and you're in business. So if I select my layer, I can go ahead, give it a few clicks. And once this is set, I'm ready to animate with my transform tool. And then I will enable my animation mode so I can key that. So you can see right away without any work, I can just stretch this, I can rotate it. So there I can key the head of the giraffe here, and then I'll go back and I'll bring it back like this and maybe stretch it back in. And there you go. So with a bone, I animated my animation. So it's really, really simple, and you can build very nice characters with this. And then, yeah, like I was saying, the motion tool is replaced by the transform tool, and you simply have to enable the animate mode. And to finish the differences in animation, you have your animation properties in Toon Boom Studio, which are called scene settings in Harmony. So in your scene settings, you can choose preset resolution, and you can create custom ones. You can adjust your field of view, but you can also choose a different resolution and a different frame rate. So you'll find your parameters here. And as you move towards advanced and premium, you'll have way more settings, so you can change all the alignments, the grids, and bitmap resolutions for bitmap drawings. So this is just to start, and then it kicks off and lets you change a lot of parameters. So those are some of the basic ones. Then let's see here. After the animation features, you also have the different views. So Toon Boom Studios has a lot of different views. And so if you're trying to find the pen view or the cell view in Toon Boom Studio, you will not find them because they're available in a different format. So one that you'll find is the same, is the library view. It's actually even simpler to use in Harmony because you don't need to create a catalog or a global library. You simply create any folder and you copy any templates in it. You can share individual templates without having to use a catalog. So that's really, really handy. The other one is the pen view. Like I was saying, the tool properties view gathers a lot of the settings. So the pen view is available as soon as you select either the brush tool or the pencil or shapes tool. The tool properties view will show you all their settings. The cell view, because it's very similar to the library view, I'll show you after, it's also combined within the library view. So that's where you'll find your swapping. And then properties view is very similar, but it's called layer properties view. So if you were to look in the list looking for properties, you have to look for layer properties. And finally, the text view, it's also under the tool properties view. So I will demonstrate how that goes. It's actually really simple. So here, as soon as I select my brush tool, you can see that my tool properties view shows me all the brushes settings available, and I even have some additional ones in this preview here where I can adjust the minimum, maximum size, some smoothing, and the smoothing is divided in two. You have the central smoothing, which controls your lines, and the contour smoothings, which controls the amount of points put on the contour of your line. And you also have available some tip shapes. And then you can create your own presets, same as Studio. So that's when I select the brush tool. When I select the pencil tool, same things. And I have the different, settings available. If I go ahead and select the text tool, then you can see that whatever you found in the text view in Studio is now available in the tool properties view. And then Same thing, if I try to select, for example, I'll bring in from my library view, I have a character available here. So if I bring here this cutout puppet, which has some drawing substitution on it, so you can see this is a rig created in Essential. So it's a cutout puppet. And so for example, if I want to, I can use the bones and bend the arm. And I also have available on his face here, I have extra mouths and extra eyelids. So now you can see that in the library view, the section called drawing substitution, the section normally when I select the template that is called preview, as soon as I select a layer in my scene, becomes a drawing substitution and shows me the extra drawings available. So this is the equivalent of the cell view. Has nothing to do with the library, it's just that it's the same view, so we merged it together. So then I am able to go ahead and create some swapping. And same thing for the mouth, I'm able to swap between the mouths here in my library view and see everything that is available. The other thing that I really like about the timeline view here for the swapping is that, let me find this layer. So here my mouth has extra drawing. I'll extend this so that we can see a bit better. So the mouth here, you can see that I have in my parameter the number 7, which is the name of the drawing. So you can see as I change the mouth, also the parameter changes here. So this is also another area where you can do some drawing substitution. You don't have a preview like the library, but it's really easy to come over here and say, okay, I want to use a different drawing and just change those. And then it will change the substitution after the fact. So you have these both areas where you can do it, and you can also use this for when you have keyframes and all that and have those same parameters available. So for example, if I was to expand the parameters here, I can also change keyframes like this and change the positioning. So that's really handy. So you have swapping and you have keyframe positioning available there. But that's it. So if you're looking for your cell view, then you'll find it in the library view. Something else that was here, that was a bit different from Studio are the effects. So if I illustrate the differences here, so you had what you call in Studio to change colors, you had a color transform effect. And then here you have, it's called the color scale effect. They're actually fairly similar in the way they work. But that's what you also had to use to do a fade out in Studio. In Harmony, you can also just use the transparency module to create a fade out without having to play with all the other colors. The clipping effect, it's called the cutter effect, but they do pretty much the same thing. The drop shadow, you won't have it exactly the same way. You have to use a shadow effect, and you use what we call a quad matte node, which creates a perspective effect. So you can use, you can create any type of drawing that you will apply a quad map on it and warp it to create that perspective or projection effect. And then the other part that is also different is when you want to preview your effects. So the previewer, movie and effects previewer, you can either do you test your SWF, you can do a render and play, or you can display individual frames in render mode. So I will bring it, our little character Bungo, also from 2D Lab. So here's our character. So I'll use this character to apply some effects to it. So you always have here the menu to be able to insert different types of layers. You can also always insert from the top here too. So if I go ahead and I can insert, for example, in my effects menu, I have some blur, I have brightness and contrast, which is additional, color scale to do color transformation, the cutter, I also have a glow, shadow effect, and transparency. So I'll demonstrate first with the blur, and then I can connect my character. And if you remember here, I have my dark background. So if I want to, I can always decide to add back a color card in here too. So if I go on the blur and I increase the blurriness, I think I did my connection reverse. I apologize for that. That's better. Sorry. Animate deformation. Okay, here. So I connect my blur to my character, so now I can blur it out. And I can see it because I'm in render view. If I'm in OpenGL, which is to be able to play back in real time, I cannot always have full-on rendered effect. So I can see here frame by frame the different effects that I have. Then if I would like to play back this animation, I always can play back with effects there, which will do a small render of my animation so I can preview my animated effects. But so you can see here, I can reduce the quantity of blur and it will recalculate every time this frame for the character. So I can delete that and I'll go ahead and add another effect. So I'll go ahead with a transparency. So instead of using the color scale, I use the transparency effect here. And the nice thing is I can either double click on it to adjust it in the layer properties view, but I was talking how the timeline has also additional parameters here. So I can always expand it and see all the parameters for my effect in this area and then adjust it so I can make it either opaque or transparent or keyframe this section as well. And it would work there as well. Or I can do it here and adjust the transparency there as well. Okay, and then after that, you can also go ahead and transform a character into a shadow. So now I have a complete shadow. If I want to have my character without a shadow, also I can also duplicate my character. So here I have the character and the one with the shadow here. And to do the dropping and the drop effect, I use what we call a quad map. And then this quad map, let me show that in the OpenGL view. By showing the control, I can go ahead and just change the projection. And then if I want to, I can keyframe those and animate the shadow moving over time. And so now if I show that in my render view, then you can see I have the drop shadow. So you need a quad map and a shadow to reproduce the Toon Boom Studio drop shadow effect. And then if I want to cut a portion of the character, and then I can, I'll just create a new drawing. I'll close that. So on this drawing layer, I can always go in my drawing view if I want to, and I'll create a mask shape. And then I'll use this as my mask and I'll cut my main character. So if I go back to the camera view, I can use a cutter. My effects here, my cutter effect. Oh, I added the glow by mistake. So here I can cut this main character, and then if I expand these, I can drop my mask in here. Apologies for this. So now what I'll cover is actually there are some features in Studio that are not included directly in Essential. And then, but they can be found, some of them can be found either in Premium or found in Advanced, or those that are not available yet could be added later. But so you can see now, because I changed my preference earlier, we had this, I have my clear style. So if ever that's something they would prefer over the black style, you can always use it like this. So Harmony Essential doesn't have an X-sheet view. But if you rather do frame-by-frame animation using the exposure sheet, Harmony Advanced and Harmony Premium already have those. It doesn't mean that in the future the exposure sheet couldn't be found in Essential, but at the moment it is a much simpler version. And then Essential is a much simpler version. So if you want to add more features and start digging a bit deeper in animation, then Advanced is also a good solution for this. And then another one is that we don't have for the moment is the stop motion capture. And also the what we call the instant weather effects or particles. Then the nice thing is that Harmony Premium has an advanced, I'll create a new scene for this just to show you an example. But Harmony Premium has also an advanced set of particles that allows to do amazing effects like you would do in Studio, but actually way beyond. So in my node library view, I'll add a particle example. So here we have a lot of built-in particles, modules, and examples that allow you to do a lot of great things. So one that I like a lot is the trail particle. This one is really nice. So if I connect that, you can see here in my timeline, I can see we have this beautiful trail. So you can customize all of this, create your own little sprites. And so if you like to play with particles and push that beyond, then you can look into Premium and you really can have a blast with the effects and particles. And then instant motion is not there yet, but and then also Harmony. The concept of Harmony is that each project is actually a scene. So to have multiple scenes one after the other, then you have to look into either you can assemble them in QuickTime Pro or Premiere or something like this. But in Harmony, the difference is that each scene is its own project because of the multitude of things that can be done. Now, one of the things that is really cool is that any edition of Harmony allows you to import your animations following certain criteria directly into Unity, and allows you to create some games and all that. So, for example, some animations that were done in Harmony were imported into Unity, and they created this game. It's actually a really fun game to play. So all the artwork was created directly into Harmony, as well as the animation. And then you have all this interactivity. And I'm really not good at platform games, so that's mainly what I end up doing all the time. But so all of that you can create. It's pretty fun. So that's something that as I said, all editions of Harmony allows you to do. Also, one other great thing is that you have the ability to draw storyboards in Storyboard Pro, and from either Essential, Advanced, or Premium. So if you have Essential, you can export your Storyboard Pro and open it directly into Essential. So for example, here I could create this storyboard in Storyboard Pro and have my scene created directly in Essential, and then I can start animating it. And then so if I want here, I can create my animation on top of my board, and then I can clean it, and then I can paint it, and then I have this pre-production and production workflow ability, which is something that Toon Boom Studio didn't have the ability to do. So that's really nice for having a more complete pipeline. Also, if you like scripting and you know JavaScript, then you also have the ability to create some scripting. It's not like ActionScript and interactivity. Here it's a nice scripting language to allow you to automate some actions. For example, if you want to select 25 layers and apply a certain action to those, so you can use this scripting and do a lot of pretty awesome and useful things. I spoke also of the briefly of the kinematic output. That was also very handy when doing the formation. So if I bring back my character, so here, if I bring back this my Toon character, I'm able to create some deformations on the arm of the character. So if I bring this back up, and then when I bend it, you can see that even if I stretch this area here, the hand follows but doesn't get the form when I stretch the arm, because what we did here is that this layer is simply attached to the deformation but doesn't get the form. So that can be really, really handy when you have these types of design here. So we have what we called here the kinematic output. So if I was to scroll here, this layer here allows me to cascade some deformations upon deformations and pegs without having issues. So using the kinematic output allows me to attach drawings to deformation chains without them being deformed. So that's really, really handy for intricate designs. And then so other tools I already showed. So there's the enhanced timeline that allows you to play with your parameters here, and then you have other tools. Like I said, you have the enhanced cutter tools. You have additional effects in the timeline, and then you have also the motion paths that are visible on your animated layers. And so you have like a lot of additional features, and that is also available in the documents and the presentation that we're going to send you after this presentation. And so because I want to leave enough time for Q&A, so I don't want to necessarily go over all these additional features, but we have a more extensive webinar on Harmony Essential in the upcoming week. I think it's 1 week or 2 weeks from now. So if you want to have way more details about just Harmony Essential and get a complete introduction to it, so I would suggest that you subscribe to that webinar. And also, if you want, again, more information, you can also watch the video tutorials, which will provide you a lot of insight on all these different topics that I quickly brushed on it. So now I will check the questions that we have in the question list and see what I can tell you about.
So thank you, Marie-Ève. We have one question that came in via email that is pretty quick to answer. So Abby M asks, how do you convert a studio project into Harmony?
Okay, so that question, what you do is you cannot do it directly, like having a convert TBP into a X stage, but what you can do, like I did earlier, is from Toon Boom Studio, you can export an SWF. So I exported my movie like this in an SWF, and there's a pretty good compatibility, even more than if you were to export a SWF from Flash. If you do it from Toon Boom Studio, we respect the layers and the keyframings. And then you would import this SWF directly into Harmony. So if I bring this back in here, I'll just minimize this so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, very good. So, and then once you bring it in your library, here, so I have my animation that I brought in here, and then I can drop it directly in the camera view. It reconstitutes the color palette. And then you can see that it respected all my layers, all my animation. And if I extend that, you'll see that I have all my different drawings that I corresponded with all. You can see here the layers that came from my animation and even some of the keyframing as well. So you would have to export through SWF, bring it in your library, and then put it in the camera view from there. And you should have a pretty good portion of your artwork and project converted and imported in Harmony.
That's a good answer, so thank you. We're going to try to get to all the questions. There's quite a few, and whatever we don't answer now live, we will answer via email. We do a follow-up afterwards.
Absolutely.
So here is one question from Dan. So Dan asks, how do you add and save pencil sizes? I do it with brushes, but not with pencil in Essentials.
In Essentials, okay, so let me bring back up with my pencil tool, so I'll select this. So in the tool properties view, you have directly here, and the brush tool has a bit of a different interface. So if you go with the brush tool, you also have the ability to save your presets in here. But with the pencil tool, what you do is you adjust your pen first. I'll make it very gigantic. I'll put big smoothing. And then what you can do here is you create, it's called new brush, but it's actually the same here. You can create your new pencil. I'll call it my pencil. And then you can create it here. And so you're able to select different brushes, and then your pencil is saved here.
Hello?
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 Yes?
Okay. Okay. Your sound died out for a second. Sorry about
Oh,
that.
okay, sorry.
Okay. So the next question would be from Yeli. I'm not entirely sure if I'm pronouncing that name correctly, but the question is, does getting a subscription mean I don't actually own the software?
The way it is, it's you own the software for the year. When you have your subscription, you're paying. You own it for the duration that you're paying for. So it's, I guess, it's a bit of a yes, a bit of a no. At the end of your subscription, the software is still installed on your machine, but the license is no longer active. The good thing about Toon Boom is that we offer both model. You can still buy the software with a permanent license, or you can do the subscription, which is a bit more of a rental. But you can always reactivate your license later on without having to uninstall or reinstall the software.
Good. So next question comes from Roy. Roy asks, if each project is a scene, how do I share easily the assets between the projects? Do I use the library, or I create a template project and rename it for every scene?
Now, what I would recommend is definitely using the library. The nice thing about the templates in Harmony, the big difference, and let me show you my library for Essential is this folder here. And if I go in it, you can see all the templates that I have. So if I go in here, I have my Bungo Rough. There is a digital file, which is similar to Next Stage file. I can double click on any of these ones and open them as a scene and work in it. So each template is actually an editable scene that you can open. So definitely the library is the best way to go about it.
Good. So there's a lot of positive feedback as well. And yes, to answer everybody's questions, this webinar is being recorded and it will be made available online shortly afterwards. So let's get another question. Hold on, sorry, there's quite a few questions. Okay, this is coming from Kathy. So Kathy asks, I'm using both Toon Boom Studio and Toon Boom Animate. I now have a copy of Toon Boom Harmony Advanced. Can I open the Toon Boom Studio files in Toon Boom Harmony Advanced? And the second part of the question is, can I open the Toon Boom Animate files in Toon Boom Harmony Advanced?
Okay, so it's two different answers for that. So for the Toon Boom Studio and to Harmony Advanced, you would have to use the SWF import. So the SWF export and the SWF import in the library for the Studio one. For the Animate one, if you go onto our support web page, because there's a much closer compatibility between the file format, we can convert your Animate Pro project into X-Stage project, so that we can do for you. But the Studio one, it's through SWF.
Good. So then we have another question about Wacom. So is there, and the question comes from Sunny. So Sunny asks, is there a place to check how to set up a Wacom tablet properly for Harmony?
We do have articles on the driver setup and all that for the Wacoms directly into our knowledge base. There are some articles explaining mainly if you're some of them, not mainly, but some of the articles also cover when you are setting up your Wacom with two monitors that are not the same resolution, because you could have a pencil offset. So definitely I recommend looking at the knowledge base if you are in that setup. But if not, it's fairly easy. So knowledge base, and if not, what you have to do is you install your Wacom settings and drivers before you install Harmony. If it's the reverse and you already have your Wacom tablet installed and somehow it's not working, what you can do is go to your go to your preference utilities, remove them, and then set them up. But it's quite possible that you won't have to do any of that if your drivers are properly installed. But if you experience issues, then just remove your preference for your tablets and just reset it up, and it's going to be fine.
So we're going to take two more questions because we're just about a little bit over our time. And one question coming from Elizabeth. Elizabeth asks, "Are you discontinuing Toon Boom Toon Boom Studio 8?"
I think it's starting October 16th. We are no longer going to be producing new versions for Toon Boom Studio, and the documentation will remain online, but it will no longer be officially supported. So we are really phasing it out to bring back, to move everybody to the Harmony technology, to have everybody in the same platform and everybody being compatible with each other.
And the last question we're going to take today, whatever questions are not answered now live during the webinar, we will be able to answer you via email. You can either send your question into our email address, which is webinar@toonboom.com, or you can send it to our info@toonboom.com email address as well. And of course, we always have our support team that's available almost around the clock, so you can also email support@toonboom.com. So the last question I have here comes from Kathy. So Kathy asks, "I have had a real problem importing Illustrator files into Toon Boom Harmony Advanced. I've tried to save the file down and also change the file to a PDF. Nothing seems to work. Any suggestions?"
It's possible that you are using some of the features in Illustrator that are not supported by Harmony, because Illustrator has some features that are either new or really advanced, or that are not necessarily compatible with our vector format. So it's possible that those are the features that are stopping the import. So sometime when you have very advanced gradients, you could give a try at removing some of the gradients to see if it imports, or saving as an older version of Illustrator. We also, one of the if you have files that are saved that's CMYK, that will not work. Your files have to be RGB. So often that's actually the first one. It's the CMYK RGB that could be causing the first problem. I think we also have a few knowledge base articles and some of the troubleshooting tips also on our documentation online.
Good. And just to answer simpler having purchasing questions, yes, you can buy Harmony Essentials Advanced Premium and Storyboard Pro in a one-time shot, meaning you can either pay for it upfront with your credit card right away, or you can do the subscription-based, which is basically you buy it for a couple of months. So we do offer different methods of purchasing our software, and we do rent it, obviously. And of course, we have all that information on our website for anybody who's interested in it. But just to answer those questions that have come up online. Again, we apologize for not being able to answer all your questions today live. Please do email us more of your questions. We really hope this is helpful. Marie-Ève, thank you so much. Your knowledge is so overwhelming, and we're so lucky to have you on our team. And again, thanks everybody, and please, please, please send us your questions and your feedback.
Thank you very much. It was a real pleasure to do this presentation. I hope it was useful to everybody.